Hey guys, tonight we're not heading to some candlelit castle or cozy medieval cottage. We're dragging you by the ear into a Viking Longhouse. Picture it. You're barefoot on packed dirt. The air thick with wood smoke and something sour. Maybe old sweat, maybe last week's fish. Above you, smoke curls lazily toward a ceiling blackened by decades of soot. There's no glass in the windows, just wooden shutters you'll be expected to close against the wind if you can find them under the pile of goat pelts. And yeah, that lump beneath your knee, probably someone's discarded boot or a sleeping child. You probably won't survive this, not because of battle axes or sea monsters, but because of the lice, the smells, the sheer, unrelenting discomfort of Viking domestic life. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Drop a comment with your location and local time. I love knowing who's drifting off where. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You trudge toward the Longhouse entrance, your modern sneakers sinking slightly into the mud-caked path. Inside, the heat hits you like a wool blanket to the face. Thick, smoky, clinging. The central fire crackles, sending sparks skittering across the dirt floor. You're handed a sleeping spot near the wall. It's not a mattress. It's not even a cot. It's a thin layer of straw atop wooden planks, already dented by decades of snoring Norsemen. You lower yourself onto it, gingerly, and immediately feel something skitter across your calf. Don't scream. Screaming wakes the Jarl. And nobody wants that. Historians still argue whether Viking longhouses were designed for communal bonding or passive-aggressive torture. Either way, you're stuck here. Privacy? Forget it. The longhouse is one giant room, sometimes up to 250 feet long, packed with families, servants, warriors, livestock in bad weather, and the occasional wandering bard who sings off-key until someone throws a boot at him. Your bed is shoulder to shoulder with a guy named Bjorn who snores like a walrus giving birth. His breath smells like fermented mare's milk and regret. You shift slightly and feel something crunchy. You don't look. You already know. Lice. Not just head lice, body lice. They're having a neighborhood meeting in your tunic seams. And yes, they're inviting friends. Viking hygiene was minimalist. You'll get one lukewarm basin of water shared between 6 people. Soap? Maybe once a month if someone traded for it. Otherwise, you're scrubbing your armpits with sand and hoping the wind does the rest. Remember that crocodile dung sunscreen from last week's episode? At least that had ambition. Viking deodorant was just standing downwind. Your modern nose is in for a rude awakening. The air is a layered symphony of odors and something unidentifiable fermenting under the bench near the door. You try breathing through your mouth. Mistake. Now you taste it. A toddler runs past, barefoot and gleeful, trailing a half-eaten herring. Behind him, a goat bleats indignantly after being shoved out of the fire-warmed zone. You scoot backward and bump into a shield leaning against the wall. It's dented. Probably from battle, or maybe from someone tripping over it drunk. Hard to tell. Viking interior design. Functional, chaotic, and 100% booby-trapped. You're handed a wooden cup. Inside mead. Thick, syrupy, and slightly sour. You sip. It's not terrible. But you know it's about to be refilled. Often, refusing a drink is a grave insult. Down it goes. Already your head feels pleasantly fuzzy. Good, you'll need it. Because in about 10 minutes, someone's going to start telling a saga that lasts 3 hours, and you're expected to nod like you understand Old Norse. The fire pops. Sparks dance upward. You watch them rise, swirling into the smoke hole far above. Outside, the wind howls. Inside, Bjorn snorts mid-snore and rolls onto your foot. You don't move it. Survival tip number 1, don't wake the snorer. Survival tip 2, don't scratch the itch. Survival tip 3, seriously, don't look at the straw. You close your eyes. The heat is almost cozy. The mead is working. The lice are probably settling in for the night too. You think about your memory foam mattress at home, your electric blanket, your lavender-scented pillow spray. A tear almost forms. Almost. Historians still argue whether Vikings viewed discomfort as spiritual discipline or just didn't know any better. You're leaning toward the latter. A dog trots over and plops down on your shin. You don't shoo it away. Its warmth is weirdly welcome. Its breath smells like yesterday's scraps. You sigh. This is your life now. For the next 24 hours. Maybe less, if you accidentally insult the Jarl's hat. You drift slightly. The murmur of voices, the crackle of fire, the occasional goat sneeze. It's oddly rhythmic. Like a lullaby composed by chaos. Your eyelids grow heavy. The straw doesn't feel quite as prickly. The lice? Well, they're your roommates now. You might as well get used to them. Tomorrow, breakfast. And by breakfast, we mean something that will test your gag reflex and your will to live. But that's for later. For now, let the smoke haze your thoughts. Let the snores become white noise. Let your modern expectations dissolve into the soot-stained beams above. You're not in Kansas anymore, or even IKEA. You're in a Viking Longhouse, and somehow, you're still breathing. You wake to the smell of something burning. Not wood, something meatier and sour. Your stomach clenches before your eyes even open. Bjorn's still snoring, now with added wheeze. The dog on your shin has migrated to your ribcage and is drooling softly onto your tunic. You pry yourself up on one elbow and squint across the smoky haze. A woman in a grease-stained apron is stirring a cauldron suspended over the central fire. Steam rises in thick, greasy curls. You can practically taste the air, rancid, fishy, with a top note of despair. Breakfast is served. And by served, we mean ladled into your wooden bowl with the enthusiasm of a prison guard. You stare into it. The contents, a greyish-brown sludge with chunks. Some float, some sink. One winks at you. Probably your imagination. Probably. Mainstream historical fact. Vikings ate 2 main meals a day. Dagmol, day meal, and natmol, night meal. Breakfast was often leftovers. And by leftovers, we mean whatever didn't crawl away from last night's feast. You're handed a spoon carved from bone. It's sticky. You don't ask why. You take a tentative sip. It's warm. That's the nicest thing you can say. The flavor? Imagine if someone blended old socks, fermented herring, and regret, then thickened it with rye flour that's seen better centuries. Your face involuntarily scrunches. A nearby warrior chuckles. Soft southerner, he mutters into his own bowl, which appears to contain an entire fish head staring back at him. Historians still argue whether Viking cuisine was born of necessity, masochism, or a deep cultural love of challenging textures. You're voting for all three. The mystery meat in your stew could be pork, could be seal, could be that goat that wandered too close to the fire last night. No labels here, no ingredient lists, no Yelp reviews. Just chew, swallow, and hope your stomach doesn't stage a mutiny. You force down another spoonful, it sticks to your teeth. You use your tongue to dislodge it. Mistake. Now it's stuck to your tongue. You'd kill for a salt shaker. Actually, you might have to. Salt was expensive, sometimes traded ounce for ounce with silver. Your bowl has none. The only seasoning is smoke, time, and existential dread. Across the fire, a child gleefully slurps something green and stringy from a horn cup. You look away. Focus on your bowl. Focus on surviving. You spot a piece of fat bobbing near the rim. You fish it out with your fingers. It's gelatinous. You pop it in your mouth. It tastes like disappointment and rendered blubber. You chew slowly, very slowly. Vikings sometimes preserved butter by burying it in peat bogs for years. The result? Bog butter. Creamy, cheesy, and packed with anaerobic bacteria that give it a unique aroma. Think blue cheese left in a gym sock. Some historians believe it was a delicacy. Others think they just forgot where they buried it and pretended it was intentional. You're handed a lump of it on a slab of dark bread. It glistens. It smells like feet and earth. You take a bite. Your soul leaves your body for approximately 7 seconds. You miss avocado toast. You miss avocado. You miss toast that isn't made of rocks, disguised as grain. The bread, dense, dark, and tooth-breakingly hard, is meant to be dipped. You attempt to spear a chunk of stew with it. The bread wins. Your spoon loses. You resort to scooping with your fingers. At this point, dignity is a luxury you can't afford. A dog trots over, sniffs your bowl, and walks away unimpressed. Even the dogs have standards. You notice the adults are washing their breakfast down with ale. Not beer, ale, thicker, cloudier, slightly sour. Brewed in the same cauldron they use for stew, probably. You're offered a horn. You accept. It's lukewarm and tastes like wet hay filtered through a beard. But it numbs the taste buds. That's a win. You'd trade your smartphone for a tic-tac. A single tic-tac. The minty freshness would feel like a religious experience. A toddler stumbles over, holding out a wooden cup filled with something milky. Goat's milk? Maybe. It's warm and smells faintly of grass and fur. You take a sip. It's not terrible. It's alive, though. You can feel it wiggling. Probiotics, Viking style. You finish your bowl. Or at least, you move the contents around until it looks finished. Your stomach gurgles ominously. You pat it gently. "We're in this together, buddy," you whisper. It responds with a low, threatening rumble. The woman who served you leans over. More? She asks, grinning. Her teeth are brown. One is missing. You shake your head vigorously. She shrugs and dumps the contents of her ladle into Bjorn's bowl. He's still asleep. He'll eat it cold, or someone will eat it for him. Nothing goes to waste. Historians still argue whether Vikings had any concept of food poisoning, or just called it Odin's test. You're pretty sure you're about to take that test. You set your bowl aside. Your fingers are greasy. You wipe them on your tunic. Everyone does. Napkins are for the weak, or the future. You watch as a warrior licks his bowl clean, then tucks it into his belt. Multifunctional dinnerware. The fire crackles. The smoke swirls. Your belly feels like it's hosting a Viking raid of its own. You lean back against the wall. The straw pokes you. The lice wave, hello. The dog snores on your knee. You made it through breakfast. Barely. Tomorrow's meal can't be worse. Right? You're sticky. Not in the cute, post-beach sunscreen kind of way. In the, I wiped rancid butter on my tunic and now my elbow smells like a bog kind of way. You glance down at your arms. There's stew residue near your wrist, a smear of bog butter near your collar, and something dark and unidentifiable clinging to your thumb. You sigh. You're starting to understand why Vikings smelled like walking compost heaps. Hygiene? What hygiene? Historians still argue whether Vikings bathed weekly or just seasonally. Some sagas mention Saturday as washing day, but others suggest they viewed soap as a southern affectation, like indoor plumbing or politeness. You're beginning to suspect they just rolled in snow when they felt peaky. A woman strides past carrying a wooden bucket. Steam rises from it. Hope flares in your chest. Hot water. For washing, you follow her with your eyes like a puppy tracking a sausage. She sets it down near the fire. 3 warriors line up. One dips a rag in, scrubs his face, and passes it to the next. The rag is grey. The water turns grey faster. The third guy just sniffs the rag, shrugs, and wipes his neck. You feel your modern soul shrivel. Vikings sometimes used a mixture of ash and animal fat as a primitive soap, but it was mostly reserved for laundry or treating wounds. Your body, expected to air dry and deodorize via wind exposure. That's right. Your personal fragrance strategy is literally stand downwind. You shuffle toward the door, hoping a breeze might mercy cleanse you. A gust hits you full in the face. It carries the scent of wet dog, wood smoke, and yesterday's fish guts. You inhale deeply anyway. It's the closest thing to Febreze you'll get. You'd kill for hand sanitizer, or even a wet wipe. At this point, you'd trade your left shoe for a Clorox towelette. You notice a small basin near the corner. It's filled with water, clearish water. You glance around. No one's looking. You tiptoe over, dip your fingers in. It's cold, murky. Something floats near the edge. You recoil, then rationalize. Maybe it's just a leaf. Maybe. You plunge your hands in anyway. Scrub vigorously. The water darkens. You pull your hands out. They're damp and slightly browner than before. You shake them off onto your pants. Progress. A child runs past, trailing snot and a half-eaten turnip. He trips, face plants into the dirt, gets up and keeps running. No one reacts. No one wipes his face. No one says, "Let's get you cleaned up, sweetie. This is not that kind of place." This is the rub some dirt on it and sacrifice a chicken if it turns green kind of place. You miss your loofah. You miss your lavender body wash. You miss towels that haven't been used to dry boots, dogs, and battle axes. You spot a comb on a bench. It's carved from antler. Beautiful craftsmanship. You pick it up. It's sticky. You flip it over, nestled between the teeth. 3 lice, 2 nits, and what might be a crumb of dried herring. You set it down gently, very gently. You'll comb your hair when pigs fly, or when you find a comb that hasn't been colonized. Vikings were actually quite vain about their hair and grooming, at least the free men. Combs, tweezers, and ear cleaners have been found in abundance in archaeological digs. More like, make sure your beard isn't housing a family of field mice. You run your fingers through your own hair. It's stiff, crunchy even. You find a small white speck. You flick it away. Denial is your best friend right now. A man nearby is polishing his boots with a rag and... Is that bacon grease? Yep. He's slathering it on like it's premium leather conditioner. You watch, fascinated. He buffs vigorously. The boots gleam. They also now smell like breakfast. He grins at you. Softens the leather, he says. You nod. You don't tell him your sneakers cost more than his entire homestead. You also don't ask if he's planning to polish his feet next. You'd give your Netflix password for a bar of Dove, the sensitive skin kind. With aloe, you shuffle back toward the fire, hoping the heat might bake some of the funk off you. The smoke stings your eyes. Good. Tears cleanse, sort of. You sit cross-legged on the straw, trying to ignore the itch creeping up your back. You're pretty sure it's not just the wool. You're pretty sure you've been colonized. Historians still argue whether Viking sweat was considered attractive, a sign of hard work, or just tolerated because complaining meant you were weak. You're sweating now, not from labor, from existential discomfort. You wonder if anyone will compliment you on your musk. Probably not. But if they do, you'll take it. It's the only validation you're getting today. A dog trots over and sniffs your armpit. It sneezes. Even the animals are offended. You close your eyes. Breathe in. Wood smoke. Wet wool. Something rotting near the door. You breathe out. You imagine a shower. Hot water, steam, citrus-scented shampoo. A loofah that hasn't seen combat. The fantasy is so vivid you almost feel clean. Almost. You open your eyes. A toddler is using your knee as a stepping stone to reach a hanging sausage. You don't move. At this point, you're part furniture, part scratching post, part coat rack. You sigh. You're sticky. You're itchy. You smell like a bog that's been set on fire. But you're alive. And in Viking terms, that's basically spa day tomorrow, the latrine. And no, it's not indoors, or warm, or private. But that's a horror for later. For now, bask in your filth. Let the smoke cling to your skin. Let the lice name their children after you. You're fitting in. You're drifting. Not in thought, in body. Slumped against the wall, head lolling. One hand still clutching your bone spoon like a security blanket. The fire's glow softens the edges of the room. Bjorn's snore has settled into a rhythmic, oceanic wheeze. The dog on your lap has entered a dream where it's clearly chasing something delicious. Its paws twitch, its jowls quiver. Even the lice seem to be napping. For the first time since you arrived, the Longhouse feels peaceful, almost cozy. Then your bladder twitches, not a polite nudge. A full-on Viking hornblast of urgency. Your eyes snap open, panic flares. You scan the room. No chamber pots, no curtained corners, no discreet indoor facilities blessed by modern plumbing gods. Just dirt, dogs, and dozing warriors. You remember the outline. Midnight bathroom horrors. And buddy, it's midnight. You ease the dog off your thigh, gently, so as not to wake it or incur its sleepy wrath. You slide off the straw pallet, knees cracking like kindling. The floor is cold, damp. You're barefoot again, because apparently footwear is optional until you step in something unspeakable. You tiptoe toward the nearest doorway, sidestepping a snoring child, a discarded axe, and what you hope is a fur pelt, and not a very still dog. Viking longhouses had no indoor plumbing. None. Human waste was handled outdoors, usually in a designated pit or trench, a respectful or not so respectful distance from the dwelling. Respectful being a flexible term when you're half asleep and freezing. You push open the heavy wooden shutter. A gust of icy wind slaps you in the face like an angry Norse grandmother. You gasp. The night air is sharp, clear, and brutally cold. Stars glitter overhead. Beautiful, distant, useless. The moon casts long, skeletal shadows across the muddy yard. Somewhere, a goat bleats. It sounds judgmental. Some archaeologists believe Vikings used moss or handfuls of straw as primitive toilet paper. Others argue they just shook off and hoped. You glance down at your tunic. No pockets, no supplies. You're flying medieval. You'd trade your entire Spotify library for a roll of Charmin. Ultra soft, with aloe. You'd write a saga about it. You shuffle forward, arms wrapped around yourself, teeth already chattering. The ground is uneven, slimy. You step in something soft. You don't look down. You don't scream. You just whisper, "Not today, Satan," and keep moving. The latrine is easy to find. Follow your nose, or the faint echoing groans of someone already using it. It's a shallow trench behind a wobbly fence made of branches lashed together with twine. Privacy? Technically. If you don't count the goat watching you from 3 feet away. It blinks slowly. You blink back. This is your audience. You crouch. The cold bites your thighs. The wind finds places wind should never find. You try to hurry. Your body, however, has entered full-on Viking time. Slow, stubborn, and uncooperative. You shiver violently. Your toes curl into the mud. The goat takes a step closer. Sniffs. You hiss at it. It flicks its ears. Unimpressed. You miss automatic flush. You miss heated seats. You miss walls. Actual walls. With doors. That lock. Historians still argue whether Viking latrines were regularly emptied or just abandoned once full, leading to the charming practice of digging a new one 10 feet over and calling it progress. You glance at the mound beside the trench. Yeah, that's not dirt. You finish. Or at least your body decides it's finished. You stand, Slowly, because your knees have forgotten how to bend, and turn to face the longhouse. It looks warm, glowing, safe, a beacon of sooty, snoring civilization. You take a step toward it and slip. Your foot lands on a patch of frost-slicked moss. Your arms windmill. You yelp, quietly, because waking the Jarl is still on your avoid-at-all-costs list. You crash backward into the mud, one cheek submerged. The goat startles and trots off, bleating what sounds suspiciously like laughter. You scramble up, slapping mud off your tunic. It doesn't help. You're now officially filthier than when you left. You trudge back toward the longhouse, each step squelching. The wind picks up. It carries the scent of pine, frost, and your own personal disaster. You reach the door, push it open. Warmth rushes over you like a hug from a sweaty uncle. You stumble back to your pallet. The dog resettles on your shin without opening its eyes. Bjorn snorts, rolls over, and steals your pillow, which is just a rolled-up fur. You don't fight him. You're too cold, too tired, too traumatized. You curl up, shivering, mud drying stiff on your backside. The fire crackles. The snores resume their chorus. The lice throw a welcome back party. Historians still argue whether nighttime bathroom runs were considered a test of courage or just Tuesday. You're pretty sure it's both. You close your eyes. Your bladder is empty, your dignity buried in the trench, but you made it back. Alive, relatively ungoated. Tomorrow, dawn chores. Hauling water, feeding livestock, scrubbing pots with sand. Sounds cozy compared to this, but that's for later. For now, let the rain warm your bones. Let the snores lull you. Let the memory of that goat fade. You've survived the Viking midnight pee-dash. And honestly, that's more than most tourists can say. You're dreaming of heated floors, of noise-cancelling headphones, of a mattress that doesn't double as an insect habitat. In your dream, Bjorn is singing lullabies. The goat is tucking you in. Even the lice have formed a tiny choir. It's peaceful. It's absurd. It's perfect. Then the snoring starts. Not Bjorn's usual walrus in a wind tunnel wheeze. No, this is different. Deeper, rattling, like a bear trying to cough up a ship anchor. It vibrates through the straw beneath you, through your ribs, through your soul. You open one eye. The fire's low. Embers glow like sleepy eyes. Shadows stretch long and lazy across the dirt floor. Everyone's asleep, except the snorer. You sigh, loudly. No one hears you. Or if they do, they don't care. This is normal. This is Tuesday. This is Viking ASMR from hell. You miss your sleep playlist. Ocean waves and gentle rain. Right now, you'd settle for mild tinnitus and distant traffic. Another warrior stirs, mumbles something in Old Norse that sounds suspiciously presumably is the human foghorn. He doesn't shut up. He inhales like a bellows and unleashes a snore so powerful it stirs the smoke hanging near the ceiling. A few embers pop in sympathetic protest. Historians still argue whether chronic snoring was seen as a sign of strength. He breathes like a bull, or a nuisance to be tolerated until you could accidentally drop a shield on his head. You're leaning toward the latter. You lie back down, stare at the ceiling. Watch the smoke curl and twist in the dim light. It's oddly hypnotic. You try syncing your breathing to it. In, out, in, nope. Doesn't work. A child whimpers in their sleep. A dog scratches its ear with violent enthusiasm. Someone farts. Loudly, no one reacts. This is the Viking Lullaby Orchestra. Snorts, scratches, squeaks, and the occasional digestive fanfare. You'd write a Yelp review. 1 star. Bed, itchy. Ambiance, chaotic. Staff, loud. Would not recommend for light sleepers or anyone with functioning ears. You close your eyes again. Force yourself to relax. You imagine you're back home. Your bed, your pillow, your white noise app gently murmuring Northern Lights meditation. You almost drift. You sit bolt upright. That one had vibrato and a trill. You're pretty sure Gunnar just hit a note that shattered a distant icicle. You glance around. No one else is awake. Or if they are, they've mastered the art of sleeping with one eye open and both ears resigned. You envy them. You want their Viking-grade emotional detachment. You pull your tunic over your head like a hood, stuff a corner into each ear. It smells like bog butter and regret. It doesn't block the snore. It just adds bass. Historians still argue whether Vikings developed selective hearing as a survival trait or just drank enough mead to pass out through anything. You're starting to understand the appeal of the mead. You lie back down, spread your arms, accept your fate. The snore washes over you now. Not as an assault, but as a tide. Relentless, inevitable. You stop fighting it. You let it carry you. Oddly, it's working. Your eyelids grow heavy. Your breathing slows. The snore becomes rhythm. The fires crackle. The dogs sigh. The distant goats mutter. They blend into a strange, discordant lullaby. You're not in a luxury sleep pod. You're in a Viking Longhouse, surrounded by warriors, dogs, children, and one man who could power a windmill with his nasal passages. And somehow, you're drifting. Let the symphony play. Let Gunnar sing. Let the lice conduct. You're too tired to care anymore. Tomorrow, dawn, chores, buckets, sand-scrubbed pots, but that's for later. For now, sleep. Even if it sounds like a bear wrestling a bagpipe, you're dreaming of coffee, not the artisan pour-over kind, not even the gas station sludge kind. Just warmth, liquid warmth, in a cup that you didn't have to haul from a frozen stream. You're halfway through your imaginary third sip when a horn blasts, not a gentle alarm, not a melodic chime, a full-throated bone rattling that echoes off the soot-blackened beams and sends 3 dogs scrambling under the nearest bench. You jolt upright. Your head smacks into something wooden. You groan. The dream evaporates like steam off yesterday's stew. Dawn. It's here, and it's brought chores. A woman strides through the hall, clanging a wooden spoon against a bronze pot. She barks like a Norse drill sergeant with a grudge against sleep. No good morning. No how'd you rest. Just verbs, imperatives, survival syllables. You stumble to your feet. Your legs protest. Your back crackles like dry kindling. Your tunic is stiff with dried mud and possibly goat-related trauma. You shuffle toward the door, joining a ragged line of half-awake warriors, squinting children, and one very disgruntled-looking teenager dragging a bucket twice his size. Viking households ran on relentless daily labor. There were no weekends, no mental health days, no calling in sick unless you were actively bleeding from multiple orifices. And even then, you'd probably be handed a rag and told to mop while you hemorrhaged. You're handed a yoke, wooden, heavy, with 2 empty buckets dangling like judgment. Stream, someone grunts, pointing east. You nod. You don't ask how far. You already know, far enough to make your shoulders weep. You'd trade your entire smartwatch for a water delivery app, even the one with ads. Skip ad to continue hauling. Worth it. The path is slick with morning frost. Your bare feet, still bare because apparently footwear is a noon luxury, slide with every step. You pass a goat chewing on a discarded boot. It watches you with mild disdain. You watch it back. You're both victims of circumstance. The stream is icy, not refreshing mountain spring, icy. Your toes will never forgive you, icy. You kneel, dunk the buckets. The cold bites your fingers like tiny angry wolves. You heave them up. The yoke digs into your collarbones. You stagger back toward the longhouse. Each step sends a jolt up your spine. Halfway there, you spill a quarter of your haul. You don't stop. You don't cry. You just shuffle faster. Some historians believe Viking women marked their water buckets with carved runes, not for ownership, but to ward off water sprites who might sour the supply. You glance at your bucket. No runes, just a suspicious stain and the lingering scent of bog butter. You whisper, "Please don't be haunted," and keep walking. Back at the hall, you dump your load into a large trough near the fire pit. A child immediately begins splashing in it. You don't have the energy to care. You're handed a ladle and pointed toward the goats. You miss your Keurig. You miss your oat milk. You miss sitting, just sitting, while things happened around you, without your participation. The goats are in a pen behind the hall. There are 6. One is named Grumpy. You know this because everyone yells, "Watch out for Grumpy," as you approach. Grumpy lives up to his name. He headbutts your knee as you reach for the feed bucket. You stumble. The oats scatter. He eats them off the ground while glaring at you. The other goats bleat in what sounds like laughter. You refill the trough. Scatter more oats. Dodge another headbutt. Your back screams. Your fingers are numb. Your soul is questioning all your life choices. Historians still argue whether goat tending was considered honourable labour or punishment for minor offences like snoring too loud or forgetting to stir the stew. You're pretty sure you've been sentenced. Next, pot scrubbing. You're handed a wooden bowl, a rag, and a fistful of sand. "Scrape," says the woman, pointing to a cauldron crusted with what you hope is just old stew. You kneel. Dip the rag in cold water. Add sand. Scrub. It's not working. You scrub harder. Your knuckles turn red. The crust mocks you. It's fused to the metal like a bad memory. You add more sand, more elbow grease. A blister forms. You whimper. No one hears or cares. You'd sell your gaming console for a Brillo pad, the heavy-duty kind, with soap already in it. You'd frame it. A child wanders over, watches you. You're doing it wrong, he says, and grabs the rag. He spits on the cauldron, adds sand, scrubs in tiny furious circles. The crust begins to flake. You stare. He grins. Saliva softens it, he says, like he's explaining astrophysics to a toddler. You nod. File that away under things I didn't want to know. You take the rag back, spit, scrub. It works. You feel a weird sense of pride, then immediately feel gross. You rinse the pot, set it aside. Your hands are raw, your knees are muddy, your spirit bruised. Historians still argue whether sand and spit was the standard Viking cleaning method, or if some households used ash, lye, or crushed shells. You don't care. You're just glad it's over. You stumble back into the hall. The fire's been stoked. The smell of fresher stew begins to curl through the air. You collapse onto your pallet. The dog resettles on your shin. Bjorn snores softly beside you. For once, it's soothing. You close your eyes. You've hauled water. You've fed goats. You've scrubbed pots with spit and grit. You've earned this rest. Tomorrow. Fashion. Itchy wall. Decorative lice. The glamour never ends. But that's for later. For now, breathe. Let the rain warm your blistered hands. Let the snores lull your aching back. You survived dawn. And honestly, that's more than most influencers can say. You're lying there, eyes closed, letting the heat of the fire seep into your blistered palms, when someone drops a bundle of fabric on your chest. It's heavy, scratchy, smells faintly of smoke, sheep, and regret. You open one eye. A woman with arms like knotted rope and a gaze that could curdle milk stands over you. Yours, she says. No smile, no sizing chart, just ownership. You sit up, unfold the fabric. It's a tunic, or what passes for one here. Thick, undyed wool, woven so tightly it could stop an arrow, or at least a moderately aggressive breeze. The neckline is a suggestion. The sleeves end somewhere between elbow and wrist. The hem, asymmetrical, probably on purpose. Viking haute couture doesn't believe in symmetry. Mainstream historical fact. Wool was the Viking textile of choice. Durable, warm, water-resistant. Perfect for sailing icy seas or surviving drafty longhouses. Also perfect for making you feel like you're wearing a carpet woven by angry spiders. You pull it over your head. Mistake. The wool rasps against your neck like sandpaper blessed by a particularly spiteful god. You itch immediately. Not a gentle, maybe I need lotion itch. A full body, did I just put on a sweater made of bee stings? Itch. You squirm. The woman watches, unblinking. You stop squirming. Smile weakly. She nods, walks away. You were pretty sure you just passed a test. You trade your entire winter wardrobe for a single cotton t-shirt. The one with the pizza stain. You'd wear it like a crown. You stand, adjust the tunic. It rides up in the back. Down in the front, one shoulder is tighter than the other. You look down. There's a loose thread near your ribs. You tug it. The whole sleeve twitches. You let go. Don't unravel. Don't unravel. Some Viking garments were woven with subtle stripes or checks, not for fashion, but to indicate regional origin or family ties. Yours? Plain, beige. Possibly punishment for spilling water earlier, or for blinking too much. You shuffle toward the fire, hoping the heat might soften it, melt it, bless it. Nothing works. The wool remains aggressively tactile. You sit, cross-legged. The fabric pulls tight across your thighs. You shift. It crackles, like dry leaves or tiny bones. A child runs past, trailing a wooden sword, and what looks like yesterday's dried fish. He stops, stares at your tunic. New? He asks. You nod. He leans in, squints. Lys'll love that, he says cheerfully, then sprints off, screaming something about dragons. You freeze, slowly lift the hem, peer underneath. There, nestled in the weave near the seam, something glints. Not a thread, not a burr, an egg, a louse egg. You drop the fabric like it just confessed to arson. You miss your laundry machine. You miss fabric softener. You miss tumble dry low. You'd write a love poem to static cling right now. Historians still argue whether Vikings viewed lice as inevitable companions, spiritual familiars, or just really committed roommates who never paid rent. You're voting for biological warfare. You glance around. Everyone's wearing wool. Everyone's scratching, subtly, Or not so subtly. Bjorn's digging at his armpit like he's mining for silver. A woman nearby is combing her hair over a bowl. Plink, plink, plink go the tiny bodies. She doesn't flinch. She just hums. You sigh. Pull your tunic straight. Accept your fate. The itch is part of you now. Like your name. Like your shadow. Like your slowly eroding sense of dignity. A man approaches. He's wearing a cloak pinned with a bronze brooch shaped like a snarling wolf. He eyes your tunic. Nods approvingly. Good weave, he says. Sturdy, he reaches out. Flicks a bit of lint, or is it a nymph? Off your shoulder. Wear it proud. It'll see you through winter. You thank him. Smile. Resist the urge to peel the tunic off and set it on fire. You'd pay actual silver for a lint roller. The extra sticky kind, you'd use it hourly. You'd name it. You'd write sagas about its heroism. You stand, stretch, the wool pulls, tugs, scratches. You feel every thread, every knot, every microscopic tenant setting up shop in your personal ecosystem. You walk to the door, push it open, the cold air hits you, and for the first time today it feels good, refreshing, almost cleansing. You step outside, breathe deep. The wind whips at your tunic. You let it. Let it air you out. Let it freeze the lice into submission. Let it remind you that somewhere, in some future, there are synthetic fibers and antihistamines and dermatologists. Historians still argue whether Vikings ever complained about the itchiness of wool, or if complaining was considered weakness, punishable by being forced to wear. Even itchier wool, you head back inside. The fire beckons. The pallet awaits. The dog resettles on your shin. You sit, scratch discreetly. No one notices, or if they do, they don't care. Itching is the Viking handshake. Tomorrow, guest etiquette. Mead refusals. Jarl glares, political minefields in a drinking horn. But that's for later. For now, let the wool chafe. Let the lice nest. Let the fire warm your increasingly irritated skin. You're dressed like a true Norseman. And honestly, you've never felt less glamorous. You're halfway through scratching an itch near your left shoulder blade. Discreetly, you think, though Bjorn just winked at you like he's seen it all before, when a horn blasts again. Not the dawn horn. This one's deeper, louder, ceremonial, the kind that means someone important is entering. The hall stills. Conversations mid-sentence. Dogs stop mid-scratch. Even Gunner's legendary snore cuts off with an offended wheeze. You freeze, finger still hooked under your wool tunic. Bad form, probably. You yank your hand out like you've been caught stealing honey. The door creaks open. Cold air rushes in, carrying wood smoke and the scent of frostbitten pine. And then he walks in. The Jarl, tall, broad, cloaked in deep blue wool trimmed with fox fur. A silver brooch shaped like a coiled serpent glints at his shoulder. His beard is braided with beads of amber and iron. His eyes, sharp, scanning, missing nothing, including you, still slightly hunched from your itch session. He strides to the high seat near the fire, a carved wooden throne that looks like it was salvaged from a dragon's hoard, and lowers himself with the gravity of a man who's never had to haul his own water. A servant rushes forward with a horn of mead. The Jarl takes it, doesn't drink, just holds it, waits. In Viking society, hospitality wasn't just polite, it was sacred. To refuse food or drink offered by a host, especially a Jarl, wasn't rude. It was an insult, a challenge, a great way to find yourself sleeping outside, or not sleeping at all. A woman moves down the line, refilling horns. She stops at yours, offers the pitcher. You glance at the Jarl. He's watching, not smiling, not frowning, just observing. Like a hawk deciding whether you're worth the dive, you take the horn. It's heavy, sticky. You raise it slightly in the Jarl's direction. He gives the tiniest nod. You drink. The mead is thicker this time, darker, spiced with something that burns your throat on the way down. Cloves, juniper, regret? You cough, quietly. The woman refills your horn before you've even lowered it. You stare into the amber depths. It stares back, mocking you. You'd kill for a coaster, or a coaster-sized escape hatch. Anything to pause the refills. Your bladder is still recovering from last night's trench adventure. Some Norse hosts would serve guests increasingly strong drinks throughout the evening, not just for revelry, but to test their tolerance, their loyalty, even their worthiness for marriage or alliance. Pass out? You're harmless. Keep drinking? You're either brave or brain damaged. Either way, you're safe. You take another sip. Smaller this time. The warmth spreads through your chest. Numbness begins to creep into your fingertips. Good. You'll need it. A bard steps forward, lyre in hand. He clears his throat. Begins a saga. It's in Old Norse. You don't understand a word. But the cadence is hypnotic. The Jarl leans back, closes his eyes, smiles faintly. You try to look equally entranced. Instead, you're calculating how many sips until you can accidentally doze off without offending anyone. You miss subtitles. You miss skip intro. You miss being able to mute someone without them noticing. You'd pay actual silver for a pause button. The saga drags on. Something about a sea voyage. A stolen bride. A cursed sword. You nod along, smile at dramatic pauses. Flinch when the bard shouts. Your horn is refilled. Again. You're on your fourth, maybe fifth. Time blurs. The fire flickers. The wool itches less. Or maybe you're just too numb to care. Historians still argue whether these drinking rituals were genuine bonding experiences or elaborate power plays, ways for Jarls to assert dominance, test loyalty, and identify potential troublemakers by who drank too fast, too slow, or not at all. You glance at the Jarl. He's watching you again. You raise your horn. He raises his. You drink. He doesn't. He's toying with you, testing you. You lower your horn, smile, wider this time. He smirks, looks away. You exhale. Small victory. A warrior beside you slumps forward, forehead thudding gently onto the table. No one reacts. He's safe. You consider following his lead. Tempting, so tempting. You trade your entire Netflix queue for a designated driver, or a discreet nap tent, or even just permission to say, "No thanks, I'm good," without risking exile. The bard reaches a crescendo. The Jarl opens his eyes, claps once, slowly. The hall erupts in cheers, stomps, and the clatter of horns on wood. You clap too, enthusiastically. Maybe too enthusiastically. Your elbow knocks your horn. Mead sloshes onto your lap. You freeze. The Jarl's gaze flicks to the spill, to your face. You hold your breath. He chuckles. Low, warm, almost friendly. "The wool will drink it for you," he says, loud enough for nearby ears to catch. Laughter ripples through the hall. You laugh too. Relief floods you. You're not exiled. You're accepted. Sort of. You mop the spill with your sleeve. The wool soaks it up greedily. The itch returns with a vengeance. You don't scratch. Not now. Not while the Jarl's watching. Historians still argue whether spilled mead was considered bad luck, or a sign the gods were thirsty and you were doing them a favor. You're choosing to believe the latter. The horn is refilled. Again. You take it. Sip. Smile. Nod at the Jarl. He nods back. You've passed the test. You didn't refuse. You didn't rage. You didn't flee. You drank. You smiled. You spilled. You survived. Tomorrow, chaos. Kids underfoot. Dogs growling. Zero childproofing. The Viking version of fun family time, but that's for later. For now, let the mead haze your thoughts. Let the saga drone on. Let the Jarl think you're charming. You're not drunk. You're diplomatically numbed. And honestly, that's the safest you've felt all day. You're swaying slightly. Not from the mead. Okay, maybe a little from the mead, but mostly from exhaustion. The saga's over. The bard's tucked his lyre under his arm and wandered off, probably to find someone who'll appreciate his high notes. The fire's burning low again, casting long, lazy shadows that stretch and yawn across the packed earth floor. You lean back against the wall, letting the wall, now damp with spilled mead and your own increasingly fermented sweat, mold itself around your shoulders like a very judgmental hug. Then the chaos begins. It starts with a squeal, high-pitched, delighted. A blur of bare feet and tangled hair rockets past your knee, clutching what looks like a half-chewed sausage and a wooden sword. Behind it, another blur, smaller, louder, staggers after, wailing, "Mine! Mine!" The first child spins, swings the sword, and whacks the second squarely on the forearm. The wail becomes a shriek. The sausage flies, lands near Bjorn's boot. He doesn't stir. The dog on your shin does, though. It lunges, snatches the sausage, and trots off, tail wagging like it just won the Viking lottery. Viking children weren't seen and not heard. They were seen, heard, underfoot, climbing on shields, chewing on axe handles, and generally treated as tiny, chaotic adults in training. There were no playpens, no quiet time, no baby gates, just dirt, dogs, and Darwinian nap time. You're swaying slightly, not from the mead, okay, maybe a little from the mead, but mostly from exhaustion. The saga's over. The bard's tucked his lyre under his arm and wandered off, probably to find someone who'll appreciate his high notes. The fire's burning low again, casting long, lazy shadows that stretch and yawn across the packed earth floor. You lean back against the wall, letting the wall, now damp with spilled mead and your own increasingly fermented sweat, mold. Itself around your shoulders like a very judgmental hug. Then the chaos begins. It starts with a squeal, high-pitched, delighted. A blur of bare feet and tangled hair rockets past your knee, clutching what looks like a half-chewed sausage and a wooden sword. Behind it, another blur, smaller, louder, staggers after, wailing, "Mine! Mine!" The first child spins, swings the sword, and whacks the second squarely on the forearm. The wail becomes a shriek. The sausage flies. Lands near Bjorn's boot. He doesn't stir. The dog on your shin does, though. It lunges, snatches the sausage, and trots off, tail wagging like it just won the Viking lottery. Viking children weren't seen and not heard. They were seen, heard underfoot, climbing on shields, chewing on axe handles, and generally treated as tiny, chaotic adults in training. There were no playpens, no quiet time, no baby gates, just dirt, dogs, and Darwinian nap time. A goat wanders in from the side pen. Nobody closed the gate, and immediately begins nibbling the hem of your tunic. You gently push it away. It headbutts your shin. The dog, still savouring its stolen prize, growls half-heartedly from under the bench. The goat ignores it, so do you. At this point, your furniture, chewable, movable, occasionally warm furniture. You trade your entire gaming console for a baby monitor, even the one with the fuzzy reception. Static and distant screaming still beats actual screaming in your ear. Archaeologists have found miniature weapons, carved wooden animals, and even tiny ships in Viking children's graves, suggesting kids played warrior and raider, just like their parents, just with fewer actual casualties. Probably. You watch as a toddler stabs a loaf of bread with a butter knife and roars, "I am Thor!" No one corrects him. His mother just hands him more bread. You shift slightly. Bad move. Your foot brushes a wooden bowl someone left on the floor. It clatters, rolls. A child dives for it, misses, slides into your knee, looks up, grins. "Sorry," she yells, then scrambles off to tackle her brother near the fire pit. Their mother doesn't look up from her weaving, doesn't yell, doesn't intervene, just keeps looping thread around her fingers like chaos is just part of the pattern. You miss nap time. You miss quiet books. You miss indoor voice. You'd pay actual silver for 5 minutes of silence, or even 3. A dog trots past, dragging what you hope is a rag, and not a small, very still animal. It drops its prize near the hearth, begins gnawing, vigorously. The Jarl, still in his high seat, watches the scene with mild amusement. He raises his horn, drinks, smiles. This is his kingdom, his symphony of snorts, shrieks, and snapping jaws. Historians still argue whether Viking parents actively encouraged this kind of wild, unstructured play, or if they just didn't have the energy to stop it after hauling water, feeding goats and scrubbing pots with spit. You're pretty sure it's both. You close your eyes, just for a moment, just to rest them. The noise doesn't stop. It never stops. A child screams, a dog barks, a goat bleats. Someone drops a pot. Bjorn snores. Gunnar starts up again, now with added vibrato. You sigh, deeply. You'd write a parenting blog. How to raise tiny Vikings without losing your mind. Spoiler, you will. Tagline, childproofing is for cowards and future generations. You open your eyes. A toddler is standing in front of you, no more than 3, cheeks smeared with what might be honey. Or blood, hard to tell. She stares at you, unblinking, then reaches out, pokes your knee, soft, she declares, then pokes your tunic, scratchy, then pokes your face. Sleepy, you nod. Very sleepy, she grins, climbs onto your lap, sits, leans back against your chest, sighs contentedly. You don't move. You don't breathe. You're pretty sure this is how hostages feel. She smells like wood smoke and dried fish. Her hair is matted with something sticky. She's warm, though, surprisingly warm, and heavy, and kind of comforting. You relax slightly, let your head rest against the wall. She wiggles, gets comfortable, starts humming, off-key, loudly. Historians still argue whether Viking children were considered burdens or blessings, or just small, noisy inevitabilities you fed until they could row a boat or wield an axe. You're starting to think they were all 3. The dog resettles its head on your shin. The goat gives up on your tunic and wanders off to harass Bjorn's boot. The children resume their war near the fire. The Jarl chuckles, drinks, watches. You're surrounded, overrun, occupied, and somehow You don't mind. The mead hums in your veins. The fire crackles. The child on your lap drifts into a sticky, snoring sleep. Her tiny fingers curl into your wool. You don't scratch. You don't shift. You just breathe. Tomorrow, weather. Rain dripping through the roof. Wind howling through cracks. Constant, unrelenting shivering. But that's for later. For now, let the chaos swirl. Let the children shriek. Let the dogs dream of sausages. You're not just surviving, you're babysitting. And honestly, it's the closest thing to peace you've found all day. You're warm. For the first time since you arrived, you're actually deeply bone-meltingly warm. The child on your lap is a tiny furnace wrapped in grime and wool. The fire's glow licks the walls in slow golden waves. Even the draft sneaking under the door feels distant, manageable, like a rumor of winter, not its fist. Then the roof drips. Not a dramatic cascade, not a leak worthy of saga, just a single fat icy drop. It lands on your forehead, cold, shocking, like a fingertip of winter poking through the thatch to say, "Hello, mortal. Did you forget me?" You blink, look up. The ceiling is a tapestry of shadows and smoke-stained beams. In one corner, near a poorly patched section of reed thatch, another drop gathers, swells, falls right onto your left knee. The child doesn't stir. The dog sighs. The fire crackles on, indifferent. Viking Longhouses were masterclasses in rustic engineering. Steeply pitched roofs to shed snow, thick walls to hold heat, central hearths for cooking and warmth. But waterproofing, not so much. Rain, sleet, and melting snow often found their way in, especially in older halls or during heavy storms. You weren't just living with the elements, you were hosting them. You shift the sleeping child gently to your other thigh and stand, wincing as your knees protest. You step toward the drip zone, look up. The thatch is thick, woven tight, mostly, but time and weather have frayed its edges. A small hole gapes, barely wider than your thumb, but enough to let the sky in. Another drop forms. You catch it in your palm. Cold, clean, almost refreshing. You'd trade your entire umbrella collection for a single roll of duct tape. The industrial kind. You'd climb up there yourself. Probably fall, but you'd try. Some Norse households kept a bucket or trough under known leak spots, not to catch water for drinking, but to keep it from pooling on the floor and turning the packed earth into a mud pit. You glance around, no bucket, just a slowly expanding dark spot near the wall. You sigh, shuffle over, plant yourself above it. Let the next drop land on your boot. Sacrificial footwear. The wind picks up outside. It doesn't knock, it probes, whistling through unseen cracks in the walls, under the doorframe, between the logs. It carries the scent of pine, frost, and distant sea salt. It also carries the cold. You feel it now, seeping through your wool tunic, needling your back, nipping at your ears. You cross your arms, shiver. The child on your lap mumbles in her sleep and burrows deeper into your chest. You don't move her. She's your personal space heater. Abandoning her for warmth would be tactical insanity. You miss central heating. You miss double-pane windows. You miss climate control. You'd write a love letter to your thermostat, sealed with a kiss and a prayer. A warrior near the fire stirs, pulls his fur cloak tighter, mutters something about Thor's sneezes. You nod sympathetically. He doesn't see you. He's already dozing again, chin on chest, fingers still curled around his horn. Historians still argue whether Vikings viewed the cold as a spiritual trial, a test of endurance sent by the gods, or just an unavoidable nuisance they grumbled about while huddled under furs. You're pretty sure it's both. You're also pretty sure they invented mead, specifically to forget what their toes felt like. You walk back to your pallet, child still snoring softly against your collarbone. You sit, adjust her weight, pull the edge of your tunic over her like a blanket. She sighs, smiles in her sleep. You smile back, then shiver again. The drip continues, plink, plink, plink. The wind answers with a low, mournful howl. The fire pops. Sparks skitter across the floor. One lands near your foot. You don't brush it away. It dies on its own. Small mercies. You'd pay actual silver for a heated blanket, the kind with settings. Viking Longhouse sim mode would be the highest. And most ironic, you close your eyes. Let the sounds wash over you. The drip, the wind, the crackle, the snores. The distant bleat of a goat who definitely shouldn't be in the hall, but is anyway. It's not peaceful, not by modern standards, but it's rhythmic, predictable, alive. The cold doesn't vanish. It just becomes part of you, like the itch, like the lice, like the smell of bog butter clinging to your sleeves. You stop fighting it. You let it settle into your bones. Let it remind you that you're alive, that you're here, that you're enduring. Historians still argue whether Viking homes were designed to embrace the wild, or if they just hadn't invented caulking yet. You're starting to think it doesn't matter. Survival isn't about comfort. It's about adaptation, about finding warmth in a child's breath, dryness under a shared fur, stillness in the eye of the draught. The child stirs, mumbles, "More honey." You chuckle softly. "Tomorrow," you whisper. She sighs, settles. Her tiny fingers clutch your tunic like a lifeline. You lean your head back. Watch the smoke curl toward the hole in the roof. Watch it escape. Wish you could follow it, but you don't. You stay, you shiver, you drip, you endure. Tomorrow, boredom, no books, no screens, just whittling sticks and arguing about Odin's favorite snack. But that's for later. For now, let the wind howl, let the roof weep, let the child sleep. You're not warm, but you're not alone. And honestly, that's the Viking version of cozy. The fire's down to embers. The snores have settled into a steady, rumbling chorus. Gunnar's vibrato, now harmonizing weirdly with Bjorn's baseline wheeze. The child on your lap is dead weight in the best possible way. Her breath warm against your collarbone. Her tiny fingers still tangled in your scratchy wool. You're tired, bone tired, soul tired. The kind of tired that makes you consider lying down right here in the dirt and letting the lice throw a welcome party on your eyelids. But you can't sleep, not yet, because boredom has arrived. It doesn't announce itself with fanfare. No horn blast, no spilled mead, just stillness. The kind that creeps in after the chores are done, the meal's eaten, the story's told. The longhouse is quiet, not silent, never silent, but the chaos has ebbed. The children are napping or poking at embers with sticks. The warriors are dozing or sharpening blades with slow, hypnotic strokes. Even the dogs have stopped chasing their tails and are sprawled in furry heaps, dreaming of sausages and open fields. You shift slightly. The child murmurs but doesn't wake. You glance around. What do? No phone, no book, no podcast, no background TV, just wood, wool, and waiting. Mainstream historical fact. Vikings had no concept of entertainment as we know it. No streaming, no scrolling, no doom watching. Leisure was active. Storytelling, games, music, crafting, arguing about gods, genealogy, or whose turn it was to fix the roof. Passive boredom. That was for prisoners, or people who forgot to bring whittling knives. A man nearby is carving something out of a block of wood. You scoot closer, gently, so as not to jostle your tiny passenger, and peek. It's taking shape. A horse, rough but recognizable. His knife moves with patient, practiced strokes. Shavings curl onto his lap. He doesn't look up, doesn't speak, just carves. You watch, mesmerized. There's peace in it, purpose. You'd trade your entire Netflix history for a deck of cards. Even Go Fish. You'd invent Go Fish. You'd teach it to Bjorn. He'd probably cheat. You spot a bone needle and a scrap of leather on the bench beside you. You pick it up, thread the needle, badly. Poke the leather, miss, poke again. Hit your thumb, suppress a yelp. The child stirs. You freeze. She sighs, goes still. You exhale. Try again. This time the needle goes through. You pull. It works, sort of. You've made a hole. Congratulations. You're now a Viking seamstress. Your first project, a thumb bandage. Some historians believe Vikings played a board game called Hnefatafl, a strategic king's table game similar to chess, but asymmetrical, where one side defends a king while the other tries to capture him. Boards have been found carved into shields, benches, even gravestones. You scan the hall, no boards. Just a lot of people staring into the fire like it owes them money. You miss YouTube rabbit holes. You miss Wikipedia deep dives. You miss just 5 more minutes. You'd pay actual silver for a single BuzzFeed quiz. Which Norse god are you? A group near the fire breaks into low conversation. You strain to listen. They're debating something heatedly, in Old Norse, of course. But the cadence is familiar. Animated gestures, raised eyebrows, occasional snorts of disbelief. You catch the word Odin, then ravens, then something that sounds like pickled herring. You lean in. Maybe it's theology, maybe it's lunch critique. Either way, it's drama. You settle in to eavesdrop. Historians still argue whether these fireside debates were genuine theological discourse, political maneuvering disguised as myth, or just drunk guys arguing about which god would win in a fight. You're pretty sure it's all three. One man slams his fist on the bench. Hugin would never. He bellows. Another scoffs. You've never seen him after Yule Mead. Laughter ripples. You laugh too. They glance at you. You nod sagely, like you totally get it. One grins, raises his horn. You raise yours empty, but they don't notice. The debate resumes. You've been accepted, sort of. You'd invent Viking trivia night. Category: gods who would definitely ghost you. Follow-up: weapons you shouldn't lick. The child on your lap shifts, opens her eyes, blinks up at you. Stick? She asks. You nod. Find a twig near your foot. Hand it to her. She immediately begins drawing in the dirt. Squiggles. Circles. Something that might be a goat. Or a dragon. Hard to tell. She hums. You hum along. Off key. She doesn't care. You watch her. Watch the carver. Watch the debaters. Watch the fire. This is it. This is Viking leisure. No screens. No algorithms. No notifications. Just wood, wool, fire. And time stretching out like smoke toward the roof. You're bored. And somehow, it's okay. Better than okay. It's quiet. It's slow. It's human. Tomorrow, illness. Sneezes that spread like wildfire. Doctors who chant and prescribe moss. The Viking version of WebMD. But that's for later. For now, let the knife carve. Let the child draw. Let the men argue about Odin's snack preferences. You're not entertained, but you're present. And honestly, that's the most radical thing of all. You're humming along with the child's off-key melody, absently tracing the edge of your bandaged thumb with your pinky. When it happens, a sneeze, not yours, not the child's, not even Bjorn's, though he's still snuffling like a hound with a cold. No, this one cuts across the hall. Sharp, sudden, unapologetic. It ricochets off the soot-stained beams like a starter pistol at the Viking Plague Olympics. The Longhouse stills. The carver halts mid-stroke. The debaters choke back their insults to Odin. Even Gunnar's thunderous snore clips short, as though the gods themselves hit pause. All eyes turn. Near the door, a wiry man wipes his nose on the back of his hand. He offers a sheepish grin. Wind spirits, he mutters. No one laughs. You feel it in the air before you see it. The subtle lean away, the hunch of shoulders, the quick calculation in every mind. How close was I? Did I breathe that in? In a Viking longhouse, sickness spread like fire in dry grass. One cough, one fever, and the whole household could fall in days. Quarantine wasn't a thing. Prayer, charms, and herbs were the defense. And if that failed, hope. The man stretches, shrugs, and strolls toward the door. As he passes, people avert their faces. A woman tightens her shawl. A child hides behind her mother's skirt. He doesn't look offended. He looks used to it. And you, sitting there, you'd give anything for a bottle of hand sanitizer. The tiny travel size, you'd hang it on a chain like a holy relic. Blessed be the gel that kills 99.9%. The door slams shut. Silence lingers. Then slowly, life resumes. The carver resumes his cut. The debaters return to arguing. Now about whether sneezing is a curse or just poor manners. On your lap, the child yawns wide, damp, and loud, right into your face. You don't even flinch. You've been baptized in Viking germs now. Resistance is pointless. Some healers here, women called Velvers, claim to heal with herbs, chants, and rune-carved charms. Others? They stuffed moss up your nose and told you to walk it off. You glance at your thumb and wonder if moss would have been wiser than leather. At the fire, a woman stirs a small pot hanging over the coals. The scent isn't stew, it's sharp, medicinal, thyme, yarrow, and something that could only be described as burnt socks. She carries a cup to a man shivering under a fir. He sips, grimaces, and sinks back down. She pats his shoulder and walks away. Her work is done, and you'd give anything for WebMD right now. For cold versus flu charts, for a telehealth call, for a thermometer, even one filled with mercury, you'd name it. Historians argue whether Viking medicine was superstition or science, but you're sure of one thing. It was both, and mostly, it was whatever worked. The sick man wheezes softly, sweat slicking his forehead despite the chill. No blankets are offered, no extra hands come, just the moss, the tea, and the fire, and the quiet hope that Odin's ravens will be merciful tonight. Then it happens again. The child sneezes. Tiny, adorable, catastrophic. Your blood chills colder than the drip from the roof. You freeze. Don't move. Don't breathe. Don't jinx it. She rubs her nose, grins, and goes back to drawing her dragon in the dirt. You exhale. Maybe it was dust. Maybe joy. Maybe the beginning of the end. In your mind, you invent a grim game. Viking germ bingo. The square's red. Shared drinking horn. Lice adjacent. Sneezed in face. Moss up nose. The grand prize. Survival. A dog trots over. Sniffs the sick man's fur. Sneezes twice. And trots away. No one reacts. The man coughs weakly. The woman with the tea does not return. The fire crackles. The wind moans. And the steady drip counts the silence. Plink, plink, plink. You pull the child closer. Not just for warmth. For protection. For a fragile illusion of safety. You scan the hall. Count the sneezes. Note the coughs. Track the sniffles. You're not paranoid. You're epidemiologically aware. Did the Vikings believe illness came from spirits? Punishment from the gods? Or simply bad luck? Probably all three. And just in case, a pocket full of moss. The sick man's breathing slows, steadier. Maybe the herbs worked. Maybe he's simply too tired to fight. You whisper a prayer, not sure if you're speaking to Odin, to Thor, or to the forgotten saint of hand sanitizer. Just keep the child safe. Tomorrow will come. There will be no rest, no escape. Work until collapse. Sleep until the horn calls. But that is tomorrow. For now. Let the tea steep. Let the fire burn. Let the child breathe easy. You are not sick. Not yet. And in this place, that counts as winning. You're drifting again. Not fully asleep. Not fully awake. Just suspended in that soft, smoky haze between. The air is thick with the mingling scents of sweat, smoke, and damp wool. The fire in the center of the longhouse has sunk into embers, crackling softly, painting the beams above in restless shadows. The steady rhythm of snores around you almost lulls you deeper, almost lets you surrender, until it happens. The horn, not the ceremonial one that marks feasts. Not the low, solemn call that greets the dawn. No, this one is sharper, shorter, every head stirs. Even the sick man in the corner, pale and sweating, lifts his head at the sound. The child curled up in your lap bolts upright, eyes wide, her little clay dragon toy forgotten. Chores? She whispers, her voice trembling somewhere between hope and dread. You shake your head. You don't know, but you know one thing. In a Viking longhouse, horns don't blow for naps. A figure strides in. It's her again. The same woman who roused you at dawn. Wooden spoon clanging against bronze pot. Eyes like sharpened flint. She doesn't waste words. Up! She barks. Firewood. Mending. Goats need turning. She doesn't bother to explain what goats need turning means. You don't dare ask. Instead, you rise, lifting the child gently from your lap and settling her on the straw pallet. She pouts, bottom lip trembling, but you ignore it. Survival comes first. Cuteness comes later. Here's the truth. Stripped bare. There are no weekends in the Viking world. No holidays. No sacred pauses for rest. No escape into the illusion of me time. Life is a rhythm of relentless necessity. Feed the fire before it dies. Tend the animals before they weaken. Fix the roof before the storm. Rest isn't planned. It isn't given. It is stolen, briefly, in the cracks between labor. You shuffle outside with the others. The cold bites sharper than before, sliding under your tunic, needling into your bones. The sky looms low and grey, swollen with the promise of snow or sleet, or maybe just despair. Near the wall lies a pile of logs. An axe is thrust into your hands. It's heavier than it looks. Your fingers close around the rough wood of the handle. You raise it, swing, miss. The blade buries itself in dirt. A chuckle rises from behind you. You pretend it was intentional. Part of you aches for something so absurdly modern, so laughably out of place here. A do not disturb sign. You'd hang it around your neck like armor, even if no one could read it. The words would say, currently not dying. Please wait. You adjust your grip. Try again. This time the blade bites into the log, shallow but real. You lift, swing, strike. Over and over. The rhythm grows. Your shoulders burn. Your palms blister. Your back screams in protest. But the log begins to split, slowly, painfully, triumphantly. A grin breaks across your face. cut short as a splinter snaps free and smacks your cheek. And in that moment, you remember another luxury you'll never taste here. Sick days, personal days, even those small guilty mornings of, I just don't feel like it. You'd pay silver, actual, hard-earned silver, for a hammock, indoors, guarded by a loyal dog, a dog named Nope. A child sprints past, dragging a bucket sloshing with water. "Moss duty!" she shouts, disappearing toward the woods. You don't even want to know what that means. You just keep chopping. The Jarl appears in the doorway, his fox fur cloak draped heavy across broad shoulders. He says nothing, just watches. The weight of his eyes lands on you, and suddenly the axe feels lighter, the log weaker, your arms stronger. You swing harder, faster. At last the wood cracks open. You bow your head slightly. The Jarl nods once, turns, and vanishes inside. A small victory, at the cost of larger blisters. Historians debate what this constant, grinding labor meant to the Viking spirit. Was it noble endurance? Or simply the cost of not freezing, not starving, not surrendering to boredom? Maybe it was both. Maybe it didn't matter. Out here, the only real command is simple. Shut up and split wood. Your arms sag like overcooked noodles. Your fingers are numb. Your wool tunic scratches with fresh vengeance. But still, you don't stop. You can't. The horn hasn't called again. And until it does, the work is endless. You imagine a different system, one you'd gladly invent if you could. Tokens for time off. Viking rest tokens. Chop 10 logs, earn one. Trade it in for 5 minutes of silence. A lukewarm swallow of mead, or the kindness of a lice check from someone who doesn't drool in their sleep. The child returns, this time with a small wooden cup. She offers it to you with both hands. "Medicine?" you ask, hope flickering. She shakes her head. "Leftover stew." You drink anyway. It's cold. It's greasy. It's perfect. You hand the cup back. She beams. "More wood," she chirps. You nod. She skips away, tiny tyrant of labor. The sky grows darker. Wind lashes sharper. Snow begins to fall, soft flakes vanishing against your sweaty brow. But you don't pause. Don't even look up. You just swing. Split. Stack. Swing again. And it dawns on you. Rest, for the Vikings, wasn't a reward. It wasn't permission. It was only ever a ceasefire, a brief truce when the body simply gave out. Rest was a rebellion against exhaustion itself, and only for as long as the horn stayed silent. The call comes again, short, sharp, final. The axe lowers. You wipe your brow, feeling the ache in every muscle. Around you, others stop too, stretching, groaning, trudging back inside. You follow, legs heavy, arms trembling, soul worn thin. Tomorrow will bring its own trials. The Jarl will watch. Miss a chore, forget a toast, slip even once, and his glare will pierce you colder than the wind. But that's for tomorrow. For tonight, you let the fire warm your blistered hands. You let the straw cradle your aching back. You let the child return to her rightful throne on your lap. No, you didn't rest. You endured. And that, more than feasting, more than raiding, more than any saga sung by skalds, was the Viking weekend. You're slumped against the wall, chin tucked to your chest, eyes half closed. The longhouse hums around you, the low, even drone of sleep-prone voices, the occasional rattle of a pot, the steady sigh of the fire as embers shift and breathe. Heat from the hearth presses into your shoulders, a dull, grateful ache that soaks into muscles bruised from an axe and a day's worth of chores. For a moment you let the warmth carry you, letting the world narrow to the small comforts, a steady orange glow, the child's light breathing in your lap, the familiar weight of your bundled thumb. Then something in the air changes, not a breeze, not a distant sneeze. A presence, heavy, taut and patient. You feel it like a hand laid across your back. It makes the hairs along your neck stand up. You open your eyes. The Jarl is 3 paces away. He hasn't spoken. He hasn't made an announcement, raised a horn, or stomped a foot. He simply stands, enormous and quiet, cloak falling around him like a low, moving storm. Amber beads catch the firelight in his beard. His frame cuts a silhouette against the smoke. The longhouse seems to shrink to the space between you and him. His gaze is a small, controlled thing, sharp, grey, unblinking. The sort of gaze that sizes up a man the way a smith judges the temper of steel. You sit up a little straighter without thinking. The child in your lap stiffens, peeking over your shoulder with wide, curious eyes. She sees the Jarl and freezes. breath held as if the world itself is holding its breath. The truth of it is old and blunt. The Jarl was everything the law and the village needed him to be. Leader, judge, warlord, landlord, all wrapped into one heavy cloak. When he looked at you, it wasn't casual appraisal. It wasn't curiosity, it was assessment. His eyes passed over you like a verdict. Miss a chore, spill mead on his cloak, forget a toast, or refuse the cup he offers, and you didn't get an explanation. You got a look. That look could chill you deeper than any North Sea wind. Your mind scrambles through the day, through the small missteps that might have earned his attention. Did you drop the axe? Miss a knot when mending a roof? Breathe too loudly during Gunnar's snore? The child sneezed near the sick man. Was that the crime? Are you now accountable for toddler-born pandemics? The possibilities pile up and tumble over one another until you feel foolishly exposed. He takes a slow step closer. The longhouse quiets, as if someone has asked silence to come forward. Gunnar's snore lowers to an embarrassed whisper. The carver's knife stops mid-slice. The debaters halt their insults to Odin mid-sentence. Even the dogs roll onto their backs in a wordless submit. Every sound becomes small and careful, like the creak of a door in a house where people don't want anyone to wake. His eyes drop to your hands. You follow the motion. Raw skin, blisters like small moons, one thumb wrapped in a threadbare leather bandage. You can feel the raggedness of your life written in the lines of those palms. The Jarl nods once, almost invisible, and then looks up to your face. You hold his gaze. You do not flinch. You do not scrape at the itching collar that's been dancing a victory parade since midday. There are stories, sagas, really, about Jarls testing newcomers by silence. See who cracks first, who squirms, who begs. You picture yourself in one of those sagas now, a chapter titled something like The Stare That Broke the Soft Southerner. You can almost laugh at the absurdity, except the laugh falters at the edges. For a ridiculous second, you fantasize about modern comforts, an Employee of the Month shield to hang over your pallet that simply reads, "Didn't die, yet." A written warning from HR, anything that would translate the fear into something you could file away. You'd pay silver for a memo carved on a shield. Subject, excessive itching, please cease. Still, the Jarl doesn't speak. He doesn't have to. Silence is his sentence. Stillness is his gavel. You feel the weight of expectation press down, the invisible terms of membership. You endure, you obey, you survive. The culture here is a compact of small, brutal economies, of favors, fear, muscle memory. Belonging costs more than warm bread. It costs steadiness under scrutiny. A log shifts in the fire. Sparks lift and scatter like tiny insects, one falling and hissing near your foot. You don't move to brush it away. Neither does he. Both of you let it burn a hole in the story and see what happens. People argue over why Jarls used silence, intimidation, pedagogy, spectacle. You suspect it's all of the above, and maybe entertainment for the room. Humans will watch a drama if you give them one, even when everyone knows it's their turn on stage. The child in your lap sneezes again. Tiny, irresistible, cataclysmic. You close your eyes, half expecting the axe to fall, a cloak to be torn, a sentence to be pronounced. You wait for some formalism, exile, penance, forced mead undrink. The air tastes like waiting. Nothing happens. You open one eye. The Jarl's face is different. The stern planes have softened minutely, and at the corner of his mouth, so slight you could miss it, there is an upturn. It is not a grin. It is not a laugh. It is the smallest concession to something like approval. He lifts his horn a fraction, tilting it in a motion that is almost a salute, almost an indulgent acknowledgement, a pardon without a word. You let out a breath that had been knotted in your throat for too long. You nod once, the motion automatic, humble, relieved. You do not speak. Silence still seems the better coin. The Jarl turns, the cloak folding like a storm back over his shoulder. He moves to his seat atop the high bench, settles in, and drinks. The room exhales with you. Conversations ripple back to life. The carver's blade finds the wood again. Gunnar's breath returns to its thunder. The child nestles back into your chest, small hand finding yours. Her breath is warm and steady against your wrist. You let the heat of the fire warm your blistered palms. You let the smoke carry the heavy memory of the gaze away into the rafters. In the aftermath, you imagine a new pastime. Jarl glare bingo. Squares would read, eyebrow twitch. Silent nod, mead salute, wasn't exiled today. The prize? Another day alive. Mundane and priceless. You close your eyes. The sparks fall and fade. The longhouse hums on. You feel the ache in your shoulders again, the sting of hard labor and harder luck. Tomorrow will bring new tests. The Jarl will watch. One misstep. Miss a chore, muffle a toast, spill the mead, and his gaze will find you again. But that is tomorrow's story. For now, let the silence settle like ash. Let the sparks peter into nothing. Let the Jarl carry his impression of you back into the dark of his cloak. Let him think you are tougher than you are. You didn't flinch, you didn't beg, you didn't scratch, you didn't win, you didn't lose. And in this place, where survival is measured in small mercies and the gentlest nod, this is as close to a promotion as you will ever see. The fire has sunk again to embers. The longhouse breathes in slow, ancient rhythms. The snores deepening, thickening, settling into the rafters like ghosts that have nowhere else to go. The child on your lap is asleep, mouth parted, cheek pressed into your collarbone, one sticky hand curled into the wool of your tunic. You don't move her. You do not dare. She is your anchor, your small, steady pulse in the dark, your tiny, snoring shield against the creeping dread that has been pooling in your gut since the Jarl's silent approach. You know what's coming. Not a raid, not exile, not even the small, petty humiliations you've learned to expect. No, this is a quieter thing, thicker. It settles like condensation along the beam of the roof. Homesickness. It does not hit you like a horn blast or the arc of an axe. It does not announce itself, it seeps. It works its way in the same slow, unstoppable way. The cold finds every seam. Through the walls, down the collar, under the skin. You close your eyes, and the images arrive, bright and absurd in this low light. Your bed, not straw, not communal, not laced with the comforting reality of lice. Memory foam, pillows that cradle, not double as flea hotels. Sheets that smell faintly of lavender and nothing else. The thought of a shower, hot, endless, hard-hitting, comes like a mirage. Water pounding, steam rising, soap that lathers and smells like something human-made and kindly. Not sand or spit or the improvised rinses you half joke about. You see a door you can close, an apartment that actually has insulation. Silence that you choose, earbuds in, world out. No snoring, no leaky roof, no debate about whether Odin prefers boiled goat or roasted fish at 3 a.m. The truth, blunt and stubborn, presses back. Vikings rarely missed home the way modern minds understand it. They left for raiding, for trade, for exploration, purposes with edges and names. Homesickness, as we define it now, is a creature of surplus and softness. It's a complaint you can only have when you have something better to compare it to. Still, the ache is real. Comfort breeds longing. You open your eyes. The hall moves in shadow and sound. Bjorn snores rhythmically. Gunnar vibrates like a siege drum. A dog is engaged in an ear-scratching ritual that seems pre-apocalyptic. The drip off the rafters counts seconds with a monotonous, small plink, plink, plink. The wind answers outside, skeletal and patient. The embers glow. The world smells of smoke, sweat, stew, and the faint, stuck scent of bog butter buried in memory. And you? You would beg to go home. Not tomorrow. Not after another horn call. Now, right this second. You would trade every saga sung by a skald, every horn of mead, and every imagined epic for a single electric blanket. For a microwave that beeps. For a toilet that flushes. For Wi-Fi that buffers and apologizes. You would trade your left boot for a lazy boy, and you'd feel no shame in doing it. You imagine, absurdly, a DoorDash button, a small glowing circle of salvation. You would press it and weep if a stranger brought hot food in 45 minutes. Even if they left it in the snow, and you had to scrape it from a frozen doorstep, you would call it a miracle. There are old poems that speak of longing for the hall. Warriors, gone from home, craving warmth and mead and the clatter of family. But they are not yearning for climate control or ergonomic chairs. If Jarls had heated car seats, the sagas might be shorter and considerably cozier. The past is terrible at providing sleep with memory foam, but it is ample in drama. You shift. The child shifts with you and murmurs, then retreats into deeper sleep. Her breath is a small metronome against your chest. You pull your tunic up a little, accepting the scratch, the itch, the smell, smoke and sweat and surrender, because you are too tired to be indignant, too hollow to fuss. The small irritations no longer register as inconveniences. They're simply the texture of the world you now inhabit. There is an old human instinct to wish for unsubscribe, an off switch for pain, for drips and itch, and the endless list of minor cruelties. You would trade coin for a stamp marked return to sender and mail this whole week back to whatever god arranged your fate. You'd pay silver for the luxury of cancelling this itinerary. Scholars argue whether Vikings even longed for easier lives. Was hardship so woven into their bones that softer things felt suspicious? A trap to be examined? Maybe. Or maybe they simply did not imagine what comfort could be until someone handed it to them. Ignorance was not bliss so much as survival, a sort of practiced blindness. You close your eyes again and let the dim wash of mead haze the edges of thought. The snores become white noise. The embers paint your eyelids gold. This is not adventure in any noble sense. It is glorified camping. A camping trip with lice, with bog butter, with a goat that would judge you if it had the breath. You would bargain with the world. You would trade a saga for toilet paper. You would auction off a tooth for an electric kettle. But the truth sits like a small stone in your stomach. You cannot go home. Not tonight, so you stay. You let the small human consolation of the child on your lap anchor you. You allow the simple act of being held, of holding, to be enough. It steadies something in your chest. It is tiny and salvific, and more than you expected to have in this place. Let the embers sputter. Let the snores soften into whispers. Let the wind outside be only wind, nothing more than air travelling through branches, through the dark, through time. Do not cling to the lice. Do not clutch at bog butter memories. Let them drift like smoke to be scattered by morning. Feel the straw beneath you, not as sharpness, but as earth, primitive, grounding, honest. Listen to the Longhouse breathe. It is not a prison. It is a body with a heart. Its rhythm is crude but real. Your breath slows. Your shoulders unspool a notch. The child's warmth sinks into you, not as weight but as balm. There is no Jarl watching now. No list of chores hovering. No horn waiting to slice the dark. There is only this moment. The small, sacred relief of being still with another soul in the dark. Sleep comes not because it is required, but because it is allowed. Rest now. Not because you have finished your work, but because for a moment, the world has paused in mercy. Let the Longhouse hold you, not as invader or guest, but as one small piece of its living rhythm. You are not home, not by any modern measure, but you are here. Alive, itchy, cold, and oddly grateful. That is enough for now. Sleep. You are safe for the night.